Sirens punched through the glass boardroom as screens bled red, and Alex Mercer said, "Who pulled the pin?" A market ticker knifed downward, while a breaking banner accused the company of cooked numbers. Victoria Hale said, "We can freeze guidance and buy time." Nina Brooks said, "Time is a rumor when the feeds are on fire." Security strobes painted the table like a police line. Alex said, "Lock down the finance lake and audit trails now." An anonymous post exploded across the wall, and Ethan Cole said, "This leak used our staging keys." The board chat pinged with exclamation marks like shrapnel. Alex said, "No one leaves, no devices, log everything." A rival's face filled a studio window as Marcus Vale said, "Markets hate secrets." Victoria whispered strategy, but the floor vibrated with a stampede of footsteps. Alex said, "We confront this in daylight, not shadows." Nina said, "Then speak first before the story decides you." The alarms kept counting the distance between control and freefall. Cameras multiplied outside the tower as reporters rehearsed verdicts they had already chosen. And Alex Mercer said, "We speak at 9, not a minute later." A board text demanded blood, and Victoria Hale said, "Offer a special committee before they offer your seat." Nina Brooks said, "If we feed them, they will feed on us. If we starve them, they will feed anyway." A courier thumped subpoenas against the lobby glass like hail. Alex said, "We hold the line and show our math." A rumor crawled that a whistleblower came from finance, and Ethan Cole said, "The comments point to a shared credential." The air vibrated with generators for satellite trucks. Victoria said, "Our lenders want language by noon." Alex said, "Draft it, but I will not confess to a lie." Nina said, "Truth is a knife. Hold the handle." The elevators opened to a corridor of microphones that felt like bayonets. The war room smelled of coffee and static as a fresh leak claimed the fraud began months ago, and Alex Mercer said, "Someone is writing my confession for me." Nina Brooks said, "The syntax in the post mirrors Ethan's staging notes but skewed." A private channel pinged with a ghost user that vanished after each line. Victoria Hale said, "Announce an internal probe before the board does it for you." Alex said, "Announce it, and they will taste weakness." The ceiling hummed while the city drummed rain on the glass. Ethan Cole said, "I traced an IP to a contractor subnet, then it jumped." Panic scratched at the edges like sandpaper. Nina said, "Name the facts we can prove, and burn the rest." Alex said, "Find the throat of this rumor, and close my hand around it." A banker whispered about hostile paper loading, and Alex Mercer said, "Marcus is circling with borrowed teeth." A push alert painted the wall with his logo, and Marcus Vale said, "Stability is leadership." Victoria Hale said, "He is offering your creditors a clean harbor." Nina Brooks said, "Harbors flood when storms rise." The legal chief promised injunctions that sounded like prayers. Alex said, "He thinks the board wants a shepherd." The clock marched toward 9, as the lobby filled with umbrellas like a field of dark blossoms. Ethan Cole said, "Odd traffic from an admin account near compliance. I didn't puel to use Kapura Day." Alex said, "Quarantine it and ghost it back." The floor trembled with an arriving crowd that did not come to listen. It came to witness. The board channel split into camps as names turned gray, and Alex Mercer said, "So this is how silence votes." A private number rang without a name, then died. Victoria Hale said, "If they ask you to step aside, do it on your terms." Nina Brooks said, "Or do it never, and force theirs." The rain slowed, but the alarms kept a metronome for dread. Ethan Cole said, "The admin ghost used a hardware token that belongs to someone on our floor." Alex said, "Then someone here set the fire and handed out marshmallows." A lone camera fixed on the doors like an unblinking eye. Alex said, 9 o'clock, we go on record." Nina said, "Make it a blade, not a shield." He breathed once, as if preparing to dive where the light thins. Alex Mercer entered the glass boardroom as if walking onto a battlefield, his tie tightened like armor. He said, "We must speak as one, or we will fall as many." Victoria Hale spread financial printouts and said, "Liquidity is the question. Lenders will not wait until dusk." Nina Brooks whispered, "The room is wired with suspicion. Every look is a weapon." A director cleared his throat and said, "Markets demand certainty." Alex struck the table with his palm, the sound sharp as thunder, and said, "Certainty comes only when we lead, not when we beg." The rain had slowed, leaving streaks of silver light down the windows. Ethan Cole said, "The leak matches a committee memo. Someone inside delivered it." The silence tightened into a rope around them. Alex said, "No one leaves until loyalty is proven." Fear spread like smoke in an airless room. In Alex Mercer's office, the blinds were half closed like prison bars. He said, "We do not bow to whispers." Victoria Hale leaned forward, her voice low. "You cannot ignore the storm. Offer transparency before the board demands sacrifice." Nina Brooks said, "Transparency is poison if the truth is not clean." The fluorescent hum filled the pause like a warning. Alex said, "We will stage the story, not surrender it." A courier dropped an envelope on the desk. Bold letters read "Notice." Ethan Cole peeked in and said, "The network is being scraped from a foreign IP." Alex clenched the notice and said, "This company will not be carved alive." He raised his chin as if defying an invisible jury, his reflection fractured in the window behind. The operations floor buzzed like a hive under attack. Alex Mercer strode through rows of analysts and said, "Show me the breach." Ethan Cole waved him over, eyes rimmed red, and said, "Someone injected malicious code through compliance." Victoria Hale's voice cut in, "If controls fail, regulators will choke us before competitors do." Nina Brooks said, "We fight shadows. Every login could be a traitor." Alex leaned over Ethan's shoulder, code spilling across multiple screens, and said, "Trace it back, carve the liar out of my walls." The staff froze, screens glowing like spotlights on guilt. Thunder cracked outside as if scoring the moment. Ethan whispered, "The source is masked inside legal archives." The silence after his words was heavier than the storm. News alerts flickered across the glass wall as investors' demands stacked higher than the skyline. Alex Mercer said, "We owe them clarity, not surrender." Victoria Hale's phone buzzed and she said, "Our largest backer wants guarantees by end of day." Nina Brooks said, "Guarantees are no more than words wrapped in smoke." A red notification pulsed, a rival statement calling for Alex's removal. He slammed the remote. The feed stuttered and said, "They will not write my ending." Ethan Cole said, "Servers are flooding with requests. It feels orchestrated." Victoria said, "Markets will break before midnight if we do nothing." Alex breathed sharp and said, "Then we fight until the market bends, or we burn with it." In the dim-lit investor call room, silence was a weapon. Alex Mercer said, "You will have stability, because I will hold this company upright myself." A voice through the speakers said, "Your credibility is already thin." Victoria Hale scribbled furious notes and said, "Offer them a roadmap, not bravado." Nina Brooks said, "Roadmaps vanish when storms rewrite terrain." Ethan Cole messaged on his laptop and said, "One of the investors is routing through our proxy, listening from inside." Alex tightened his grip on the microphone and said, "Then hear this, betrayal will not shake me." The call ended with a click, sharp as a gunshot. Alex stood frozen, shoulders tight, silence pressing like chains. The boardroom lights dimmed as Alex Mercer scanned the faces around him, his voice steady but edged with steel. He said, "We are being hunted from within." Victoria Hale tapped her pen and said, "The CFO has shielded you publicly, yet the leaks keep bleeding from finance." Nina Brooks said, "Patterns point back to Treasury, data trails hide behind approvals." Ethan Cole whispered, "I saw changes in audit logs with her credentials." The silence carried weight, heavier than words. Alex said, "If loyalty wears a mask, I will tear it off myself." Victoria said, "Push too hard and the board will see paranoia, not leadership." The hum of the city below climbed the glass walls like static. Nina said, "Trust must be earned, not assumed. Cut deeper before rot spreads." Alex pressed both hands on the table as if bracing for collapse. The Rivals broadcast filled every screen as Marcus Vale declared, "Leadership means stability, not chaos." Alex Mercer said, "He feeds on our silence." Victoria Hale said, "He's courting regulators with promises of order." Nina Brooks muttered, "Order built on lies still crumbles." Ethan Cole leaned in. Firewall logs showed direct traffic from his PR firm to our data servers. Alex slammed the arm of his chair and said, "Then the rivalry is sabotage." The fluorescent glow flickered, as if echoing instability. Victoria said, "Expose him, but proof must be iron. Accusation without evidence will bury us faster." Alex's jaw tightened as his reflection stared back from the glass wall. He said, "Then we build the proof brick by brick and bury him instead." The room bristled with resolve born of desperation. The operations hub buzzed as alarms flared again. Alex Mercer strode between desks and said, "We bleed because someone feeds our veins to them." Ethan Cole pointed at cascading code and said, "This script mirrors our compliance audit tools but twisted to erase trails." Victoria Hale said, "If this reaches regulators, we will be guilty by silence." Nina Brooks said, "Trust no badge, no signature. Every keystroke must be verified." The air was thick with fear disguised as diligence. Alex said, "Tear apart the code, leave nothing unexamined." Ethan whispered, "It was launched from a device inside our firewall." Alex's eyes darkened like storm clouds. He said, "Find the shadow that wears our badge and drag it into light." The room froze, the weight of betrayal sinking like iron into the floor. In a dim private lounge, Robert Kane, the retired CEO, leaned on a cane and said, "You chase ambition down the same road I once did, and it ends with ruin." Alex Mercer said, "You surrendered. I will not." Robert's eyes glinted under soft light and he said, "Power never leaves by choice, it is taken piece by piece." Victoria Hale interjected, "We must learn from failure, not repeat it." Nina Brooks said, "Your caution sounds like surrender cloaked in wisdom." Robert exhaled smoke that curled like ghosts. He said, "Every empire dies, but the wise choose how." Alex stepped closer and said, "Then watch how one survives." The tension thickened, wisdom clashing with defiance, past colliding with present under the weight of survival. The war room thickened with paranoia as shadows lengthened across glass walls. Alex Mercer said, "Trust is a currency we cannot afford to spend." Victoria Hale said, "Without trust, no plan holds together." Nina Brooks countered, "With false trust we march to slaughter." Ethan Cole's voice cracked, "The spy erases logs the moment we track them. They're always a step ahead." Alex slammed his palm down and said, "Then we bait them. We leave a trail dressed as truth." Victoria whispered, "And if the trail leads to one of us?" Alex looked at each face, the silence screaming louder than words. He said, "Then the mask will fall, and I will not hesitate to strike." The air chilled, as if even the walls recoiled from the declaration. The financial reports on Alex Mercer's desk were drenched in red, a glaring sign that the empire was bleeding. He said, "The market is a beast, and we are its prey if we do not fight back." Victoria Hale stood by the window, watching the dark clouds gather, her voice cold. Fighting back means making an impossible choice, sacrificing one thing to save another. Nina Brooks said, "We need more than words. We need leverage." Ethan Cole, sitting at the edge of the desk, added, "Our accounts are being scrutinized. If the IRS opens a full investigation, we're done." Alex clenched his jaw and said, "Then we face them head on. We act like kings, not beggars." Victoria shook her head, her voice laced with caution. "Kings don't last when their power is based on lies." The weight of her words hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Alex's eyes were determined, but beneath them, the cracks of doubt were starting to show. In the war room, Alex Mercer's mind raced through plans, none of them perfect, all of them dangerous. He said, "We have one shot to control this narrative before it controls us." Victoria Hale nodded slowly, her eyes not leaving the screen. "We need allies, But how do we trust anyone now? Nina Brooks responded, her voice tight with frustration. We manipulate the same way they do. Make them believe we're a force they can't afford to challenge. Ethan Cole tapped away at the console and said, "There's a board meeting in the morning. We can't afford another walkout." Alex stood up sharply, his chair scraping against the floor. "Then we give them a choice. Support me or drown with me." Silence followed, and the air seemed to thicken with unspoken tension. The boardroom was filled with silence, only the buzz of the projector breaking the stillness. Alex Mercer stood at the front, his voice commanding but tinged with desperation. "If we don't act now, we'll lose everything." Victoria Hale, seated near the back, said, "The board is divided. Half want your resignation, the other half wants you to fight. Which one do you choose?" Nina Brooks said, "We don't have the luxury of choosing. We act before they do." Ethan Cole glanced nervously at the exits and said, "The investors are already mobilizing. They're looking for any weakness." Alex turned to face them all, his tone steely. "Then let them see us as unbreakable. We make them fear us, not the other way around." The hallway outside the boardroom was buzzing with whispers as Alex Mercer stood alone, his back against the cool marble wall. He muttered to himself, "If I fail here, I fail everything." Victoria Hale approached, her heels echoing down the hallway. "There is no way out but through," she said quietly. Nina Brooks joined them, adding, "There's no one left to trust but ourselves." Alex turned to face them, his eyes hard, but a hint of exhaustion in them. "Then we stand united, or we don't stand at all." Victoria nodded, her face unwavering. "This is your fight, Alex. Make it count." The hallway felt colder now, the weight of the situation pressing down on them like a heavy fog. The conference room was filled with tension as the clock ticked closer to the meeting's start. Alex Mercer looked at the board members, their eyes filled with skepticism. He said, "We can't change the past, but we can control the future." A director spoke up. "Control? You're teetering on the edge of collapse, Alex." Victoria Hale intervened, "And it's in moments like this that the strongest rise. We can't fall now." Nina Brooks added, "We take calculated risks, not blind ones." Ethan Cole, standing by the door, said, "We can't afford another failure. It's now or never." Alex turned to face them all, his voice sharp. "Then let's make it count. We either win or we burn the bridge with them." The conference room was eerily silent, the air thick with tension as Alex Mercer's eyes darted across the faces around him. The board had called an emergency meeting, and the stakes couldn't have been higher. "It's over," said Victoria Hale, her voice steady but tinged with disappointment. "The CFO is behind the leaks. It was him all along." Alex's face twisted in disbelief as he turned to Nina Brooks. "You knew?" Nina nodded, her expression hard. "It wasn't just him. There are more deeper layers to this betrayal. The whole department's compromised." Alex slammed his fist on the table. "This is a full-scale attack. I'm not going down like this." Ethan Cole leaned forward, his eyes wide. "You don't have a choice anymore, Alex. It's already happening. The investors know. The board will vote against you." Victoria whispered, "We need a miracle." Alex's eyes narrowed, his voice cold. "Then, let's make one." Alex walked into his office, the door slamming behind him, his breathing heavy. "I never saw this coming," he muttered under his breath, pacing back and forth. Victoria Hale entered, her heels clicking against the floor, and said, "This is bigger than you think, Alex." The CFO planted evidence, manipulated the narrative. "He's been orchestrating this from the inside." Alex stopped and looked at her. "Who else is involved? You're telling me this wasn't just him?" Victoria hesitated, her face tightening. "We're not sure yet, but the board is already turning. There's no way to stop it now." Alex stared at the city skyline outside his window, his voice bitter. "I fought for this empire and it's falling apart. If the board votes me out, it's over." He turned back to her. "What's our next move?" The war room was quiet as Alex Mercer entered, the dim glow of multiple screens casting eerie shadows. "We've lost everything," he said, his voice hollow. Ethan Cole was hunched over a laptop, his fingers flying across the keys. Not everything, but close. The numbers don't lie, Alex. The CFO's betrayal is catastrophic. Nina Brooks stood by the door, arms crossed, watching the screens. We need to get ahead of this. If the board votes us out, we lose the final shred of control. Victoria Hale walked in, her heels clicking sharply on the floor. The investors are already backing the CFO. They've already cut us off. Alex stood in front of the screens, his jaw clenched. Then we'll make them regret it. The news feed flashed across the screen with alarming headlines. CEO under fire. Internal sabotage reported. Alex Mercer's phone buzzed with notifications from the board members. They're moving faster than we anticipated, Victoria Hale said, her voice tight. They've already drafted the statement. Alex slammed his fist on the desk, his face twisted in anger. I'm not going to let this happen. Not like this. Nina Brooks stepped forward, her expression grim. If we act now, we can control the narrative, but we need leverage. Something the board can't ignore. Alex's eyes flashed with resolve. Then we expose everything. We take down the CFO and the board with him. The final confrontation with the board had arrived. The room was filled with cold stares as the members sat, waiting for Alex to speak. He stood before them, his voice unwavering. You have a choice, back me or the company goes into freefall. One board member spoke up. You've lost control. The CFO has provided the evidence. The leak is undeniable. Alex took a deep breath and said, if you back him, you back a liar. The room fell into an uncomfortable silence. Victoria Hale leaned in and said, we're not backing down. If you want to take this company from Alex, you'll have to go through us first. The tension reached its peak, and the weight of the moment hung in the air. The boardroom had never felt this tense. Alex Mercer stood before the members, his voice cold and measured. This is it. We either make a stand, or we lose everything. Victoria Hale nodded, her gaze unwavering. The numbers don't lie, Alex. The board is divided. Half want you gone, half want to fight with you. Nina Brooks crossed her arms, watching the board members with distrust. We need a way to show them who's in control. And it's not Marcus Vale. Ethan Cole was glued to his phone, eyes darting nervously. I've traced back more internal sabotage. They're moving faster than we are. Alex slammed his fist on the table. Then we move faster. We fight this with everything we've got. We take control before they can rip it from us. The board members shifted uncomfortably, sensing the rising storm. The tension in the air was palpable as the rivals' latest attack hit the headlines. Alex Mercer paced the room, his mind racing. Marcus thinks he's won, but he's wrong, he muttered. Victoria Hale stared at the wall-mounted screen, the news ticker flashing the latest scandal. They're painting you as a liar, Alex. If we don't hit back hard, the investors will believe it. Nina Brooks leaned forward, the glow from her tablet casting shadows across her face. We need a full-scale offensive. Expose them for what they truly are. Ethan Cole, still on his phone, added, I've got more on Marcus. We can turn this around, but it's going to be brutal. Alex's gaze darkened as he turned to face them. Then we fight. We expose them, and we win this war. The clock was ticking as the final battle for control began. Alex Mercer stood before the board again, the room filled with murmurs and skepticism. This is our last chance to turn this around, he said, voice steady but filled with resolve. Victoria Hale whispered, the board is getting ready to vote. If you don't have a plan, it's over. Nina Brooks, standing by the door, scanned the faces of the board members. We give them a choice. Back us or we expose them all. Ethan Cole looked at the board, his voice low. The board is scared, Alex. They know they've been played. But they'll fall in line if they know there's no other option. Alex turned to face them, his gaze cold. Then we give them no other option. The final moments before the vote were upon them. The board members gathered around, their eyes cold and calculating. You know what's coming, Alex Mercer said, his voice rising in intensity. Marcus will try to take everything we've built. He's the cancer in this company, and I'm done letting it spread. Victoria Hale, standing beside him, said, we can't just tear down the enemy. We need to rebuild our trust with the board. Nina Brooks spoke up, her tone harsh. Trust is a luxury we don't have. We needed to expose Marcus, show them the truth. Ethan Cole stood with his hands in his pockets, a small grin playing on his lips. I've got something that will make Marcus wish he never stepped foot in this building. Alex looked at each of them and said, then we show them what happens when they underestimate us. The final decision was in their hands. The board voted. Alex Mercer stood at the head of the table, his heart pounding in his chest. If you vote me out, you're choosing a future built on lies, he said. But if you vote for me, we fight, and we win. Victoria Hale glanced at the board members, her voice low but persuasive. This is not just about Alex. It's about the future of the company. Nina Brooks looked around the room, her gaze unyielding. We're the ones who will shape that future. We can either burn the ship or sail it to victory. Ethan Cole stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. Make your choice, but know that there's no turning back. The vote began. Alex held his breath, knowing that the next few moments would decide everything. The silence was deafening as Alex Mercer walked down the empty hall toward the conference room. He had made it this far, but the weight of what he was about to do pressed down on him like a ton of bricks. Victory doesn't feel like it's in reach anymore, he thought, his steps echoing in the corridor. He had lost so much, his empire, his allies, and his trust in those he thought would never betray him. Yet, here he was, about to face the final decision. As he reached the door, Victoria Hale appeared beside him, her face unreadable. You fought hard, Alex, she said quietly, but this battle might cost you more than you're willing to pay. Alex took a deep breath. I know, he replied, but if I walk away now, I lose everything we fought for. The door opened, and the decision awaited them. Inside the conference room, the tension was palpable. Board members sat at the long table, their eyes fixed on Alex. He could feel the weight of their stares, their judgment hanging over him like a guillotine. If I fail now, there's no turning back, he thought. Victoria Hale was the first to speak, her voice strong and unyielding. We're at the crossroads, Alex. You either prove you can lead or you walk away from all of this. Alex looked at the board members, their faces a mix of skepticism and doubt. I will prove I can lead, he said, his voice steady despite the storm raging inside him. But I'll do it on my terms. The room fell silent, awaiting the vote that would decide his fate. The vote began, and Alex Mercer's heart pounded in his chest. This is it, he thought. As the members cast their votes, each decision felt like a step closer to either salvation or destruction. The room was eerily quiet, except for the soft scribbling of votes being written down. Victoria Hale, standing beside Alex, looked at him with an unreadable expression. It's out of our hands now, she whispered. But whatever happens, you've shown them that you're willing to fight. Alex didn't respond. His eyes were fixed on the board members, waiting for their final decision. Time seemed to slow as the last vote was cast, and the silence grew heavier. The votes were counted. Alex stood at the front, his mind racing. It's over, he thought. The board had made its decision, and it wasn't in his favor. As the chairman announced the results, Alex's world seemed to collapse around him. We've lost, he thought. The door to his empire had slammed shut. But then, Victoria Hale stood up, her voice cutting through the tension. This isn't the end, she said firmly. We can still turn this around. Alex turned to face her, his eyes filled with disbelief. How? How can we possibly fight back now? Victoria's gaze softened. We don't back down, Alex. We rise from the ashes. The final decision had been made. Alex Mercer walked out of the boardroom, his face a mixture of exhaustion and resolve. I lost, but I haven't been beaten, he thought. As he stepped into the hallway, the weight of the moment pressed down on him. He had fought for everything, his empire, his legacy, and his future. And now, he was left with nothing but the remnants of what once was. But as he walked, his phone buzzed. A text from Victoria Hale read, It's not over. We're just getting started. A faint smile tugged at the corner of Alex's lips. Maybe she's right, he thought. Maybe this is just the beginning.